Hello everybody, good to see you all. Today I'm talking about servitization of the home, Internet of Things measurement, something called use visibility measures. This will all make sense hopefully by the end of the talk. So I structured this talk quite like an academic paper, so I'll go through a background, some theoretical frameworks, some method results and into the discussion. So the aim is to focus on the understanding of the nature of value creation in the home. And what that means is the way that you create value, the way you do things within your home space. To use this understanding, we want to drive the development of novel platforms we call a HAT. You've just seen a little film about that. The HAT is the hub of all things. And associated business models that allow us to create value based on the Internet of Things and what occurs within the home space. So where do we start? Let's talk about business models. We want to improve business models to create sustainable supply chains. Each person in the UK uses 150 litres of water. I think that's per year, produces 416 kilograms of domestic waste. Only 24% of the 2.5 million tonnes of plastic wrapping used in the UK was recycled. So there's an opportunity here for us to develop much smarter business models to support long-life products, to stop us creating so much waste. Just looking at electrical goods, there's an estimate that we could make £800 million per annum saving. It's a lot of money. So businesses are responsible for their products through life. What this means is firms must consider the supply, use, recovery, recondition, repair, all these things you have to do for your products. All the way through life, from the moment you buy them to the moment you finish with them, the moment you dispose of them. We focus upon customer use processes when we talk about value creation. When you use something, we say that's the start of the reverse supply chain in the home. And the Internet of Things, if we have data in the home, we're saying that that can provide useful context-specific data. It enables an understanding of the what, when, where, why, how of household consumption. So what we're really trying to do is capture in data an understanding of what it is you do in the home to do the things you want to do with the things you buy, and that will allow us to make better businesses to serve you in the home. We don't do that at the moment because there's something called information asymmetry in the home. You've got a lot of knowledge as a consumer of all the activities that go on within the household, with what you do with the things you buy. But little information is passed back to the person that sold you the product, the person who designed the products that you use. Suppliers lack post-sale visibility of their products in use. Context of use is where value is created. Where products are used, the combination of products that you use together in value-creating activities are really where you generate value. You might buy something for a very specific purpose, and you'll combine it with the other things you've got in your house, and that'll create something good that you wanted to do. But the consumer, the person selling you that item may have no idea what you were doing. Again, the starting point of the reverse supply chain. When you've finished, stuff goes into waste disposal. So this led us to our research question. How can the Internet of Things be operationalised in the home to capture data on consumers' use of products, and what are the implications for supply chain? So that's how we got to our research question. So what theory do we use? Well, starting with business models, there's a lot of definitions of what a business model is. Something about value creation, delivery, capture mechanisms, the rationale, how a firm organises to deliver and create value, some form of generic level descriptors about creation and distribution of value, and Amit and Zott, interdependent activities, focal firms, customer-supplier, third-party relationships. All of these things have references to value or service delivery, but no definitions of actually what they mean. You'll find this in a lot of academic work, and I'll talk about something like value. But what does value actually mean? I think you've all probably written the word during your studies. Value, oh, this is valuable, we're going to add value, create value. Resource value creation. What do you mean by value? It's a particularly slippery term. So what does it mean? Can you take it? Science round. You've all used the term though, yeah? You've all spoken about value, adding value, creating value in your essays. Anyone defined it?
How much it costs?
How much it costs? Well played.
There should be two factors, cost and
Just two factors. Cost and
some deliverables or something.
cost and deliverable. Cost benefit.
Yeah, cost minus price.
Cost minus
And the
price.
happiness it creates.
And happiness. Yeah. Value, what does it mean? Are all these things valuable? That's my feet on the beach in Barbados. Wedding rings, little kids, card table. All valuable?
I mean, if you didn't have your feet, it would be really
Yeah.
challenging time.
But you can see these are all different interpretations of value. Conceptually, what links them all is actually some measure of goodness. I have good feet. Value perceptions, what we're really trying to do is shift the perception of what value is and move away from traditionally this understood or what you're mostly taught is value as some form of exchange where you exchange something at cost. It's an exchange. It's what does this cost? Or how much do I have to give you to get this back? Value is often seen as at the point of exchange. It's frequently seen as objective that somehow something is inherently valuable. You know, like the Rolex watch is inherently somehow an incredibly valuable thing. Measures are often very much firm-centric. But can we think differently about what value actually means? Can we move away? Can we shift to how value is only really created when we use something? Use value describes how good something is when you use it. That's quite a different way of thinking about what value means from cost and price and these other ideas. Use value is difficult to capture. It's perceptual, which is annoying. Because actually, how good something is when you use it, that's phenomenological. That relies on somebody looking and seeing and experiencing, and how do you capture that? Much easier to ask how much it costs. Perceptions change with context. Perceptions change as we get new information. We thought something was good, and actually that changes as we learn more. So we need a constant stream of new information to understand value. In their day, all of these things were thought to be good. But we now have new information. And we've changed our minds, by and large. Businesses need to understand changing patterns of use if they are to innovate and create new products, develop new offers, and succeed in dynamic marketplaces. The closer you are to use, the better information you have in that space, the better able you are to compete. So let's consider value. Which of these two things is most valuable? Depends on the context, yeah? By framing value as a measure of how good something, whilst it's situated in context, only then can we understand its use value. The value and offer of consumer is only known when they integrate it into their lives. This chap has absolutely no use for gold. If you give him gold, what's he going to do? He's gonna sick.
Looks like Nigel Farage.
Maybe we should let him sick. This is a chap who's in the market for polystyrene, because that floats. So the closer you get to use and context, the more money you can charge for the things you offer, if it's appropriate for that use and context. This is why it's really important to understand it. The better information you have, the more money you can make, the more appropriate your business model. So where do you as a supplier get this useful information from? Traditionally, supplier-centric approaches focus on the provider-consumer interface. That's normally the point of exchange, which is usually a shop. But what data can you get about the use of an item from a shop? Well, you may get point of sale data, you may get satisfaction surveys, there may be some market studies. Is this really useful use information then? Would you rely on it? In most cases, after sales, suppliers have no contact with the consumer. Unless they come back and buy from you again, or there's a problem and they're returning the offer. This is not a great way to run a business. You only engage with your customers' use of your product when they're complaining or when they're buying another one. Probably when they're complaining, you're learning something. When they're buying another one, you're not learning a thing. Providers actually have a very limited opportunity to collect use data at the moment. No readily available value creation processes and use context data for you, because when you buy something and you consume it, that's done in a very private space in the home. So where's the opportunity for you to collect data? So most firms never see the value creation process or how value is created with the things in which they sell. Point of sales data is collected, is seen. So this is our framework, our business model, a very simple business model framework. We have the production of a value proposition. This is what firms do. Then the value is realized when you use something, and then somehow you must try and capture worth, capture some money for your firm as a result of this relationship. What tends to happen is you capture point of sales data. How many units did I sell? The shop might tell me that, or we might have it in a register somewhere, and that will influence our product design. We've sold loads of these. We'll make more of those. People seem to like this attribute. We'll add this attribute across the range. That completely misses what somebody's doing with it. Now you're sat on chairs, yeah? Some of you are probably using your chairs as little coat hangers. Everybody uses a chair to hang a coat on, yeah? Most of you changed a light bulb. Did you use a chair? So chairs offer you lots of different ways of realizing value and use. Why don't chairs have a special coat hanger shaped back for hanging jackets on? Because that's what we all do. One assumes that people who sell and make chairs have never ever sat in them and used them. Because otherwise that would be natural. We do that because realised value and use should be shaping the value proposition. At the moment, the only way we really do that is survey data. Very little observation of what's going on in the home. Now we can get consumer use data directly from Internet of Things devices and sensors. This is where the Internet starts to really help us. When we have sensors and Internet of Things enabled devices in the home, we can suddenly start collecting real use data about what an object did when you used it. This is done already in what we call complex engineering service systems. There's something called servitization, which is the move from selling products to selling services. And this is a Lynx helicopter. It tends to be provided with a number of flying hours, and there's an awful lot of equipment monitoring its use and its condition while it's flying. And all of that, health usage monitoring systems and intelligent vehicle health management systems, IBMH, HUM systems, they're reporting back what's going on with this platform. What's its environment like, how hot is it, how many cycles is it running, that sort of stuff. It's very expensive to provide that on a military platform. They provide it on civil platforms. Most aircraft you fly on will be sending data back to Rolls-Royce or whoever provided it. Actually, this concept, which was previously very expensive, as we move into a world of Internet of Things, where your TV, your washing machine, all these other items in your home suddenly are connecting to the internet, that's very cheap. We can buy sensors for sort of £5 now that hook to the internet and report on what you've been doing. I've got door sensors, I've got water sensors, all sorts in my house. So this data is actually now very cheap to collect. This sort of data can inform suppliers, the supply chain, and therefore close the loop. This is a traditional illustration of what a supply chain might look like. Raw materials all the way through to consumer, but here we have this point of decoupling between the person who sold you something and your use of it. In the academic literature, often they conceptualize the consumer as some form of stockholder, which you'd be pleased to know. They view you as somebody who's merely holding stock before the product is returned into the supply chain for recycling, reuse. They call it a closed loop supply chain, but in reality this is not a closed loop. There's a black box that's going on here. We cannot see what's going on. What we want is visibility into that space. And what do we mean academically by visibility? Well, there's 3 different ways of conceptualizing visibility. We can talk about information sharing and exchange. We can talk about the properties of the information that is exchanged. Or actually we can talk about the capability to use information that allows you to initiate and inform new actions. And it's this last one I think is probably the most useful. So visibility has been developed within performance management, supply chain information availability, usually not seen as a problem by managers. When you speak to supply chain managers, they tend to say, oh, we've got great information. That's fine. I would suggest that we could do better. Managers often see measures that are merely monetary resource equivalents. They talk about units, unit cost, unit production. So it's all financial measures, and that can be very misleading. Typically you get 3 sorts of measures: static measures, which tend to be lagging, how many units did you have at some point in time. Sometimes dynamic measures, which may give you some indication of what's happening in the future. There may be some motivational measures trying to get you to sell more, but really nothing much on use there. Little is said about how somebody uses an offer, about actual value creation. So at the moment, I'd say firms are behaving like somebody stood on a motorway bridge. The products are like cars whizzing underneath. They're like counting cars. Go, oh, look, this is good. They may recognise the same car making multiple journeys in the same day. They may count the speed. But actually they've got no idea. They may not know where the road's going, but they don't know why people are going anyway. For me, this isn't a great place to be in business. The why gives you the context and the goal. Why is somebody going somewhere? What's their motivation? If you can understand that, then you can really innovate. So use, value, visibility, and Internet of Things suddenly come together. Value realised during the experience, during the context of the offer. Value creation considered through that relationship lens, linking customers, providers, and the consumer within their contextual space, drawing on multiple value streams, not just one. When we talk about encounters and episodes, these are the opportunities in which we collect information. So using Internet of Things, supply chains, we can get dynamic visibility data of consumer use processes. So we've got this idea that through the Internet of Things, we can collect this use data, and that will allow our supply chains, our innovations, all to be much more dynamic and close that supply chain loop. So, explorative case, we set up what we call 6 hat users. quantitative data from sensors and systems in the home. So my house, I rigged mine up, we had door sensors, water sensors, humidity sensors, lots of sensors all over the place, collecting data. This creates what we call data density. If you measure lots of things, you've got lots of data to look at. We also did some interviews, user processes, descriptions, we had home visits, really understanding what people are doing in their home. We found some interesting things. Like when you go into somebody's home and ask people what they do. Like guys don't talk about this, but we were talking about showering. We'll come on to that. I mean, I take it nobody's ever discussed how other people shower. And yeah, there's all sorts of processes going on there. So we focused on the showering activity. It's a difficult space. It's a private function in the home. You can't video showering. Well, maybe you can, but we don't. It's a wet environment. So you can't put big electrical kit in a shower room. So it's tough. You know, electrical sensors don't like it in there. You can't use mains power, so you're pretty much limited to battery operated. So already we've got probably the hardest room in the house to try and look at. We created the hub of all things. This is the platform we used, something developed by the research team I was working with. This is a system, a micro server that allows you to collect and process data. So it's drawing all this data in from all these sensors, making it accessible in one place. We had 6 people collecting. We're now working to scale up. I'll come to that later. But hat data is owned by the individual. What's unique about the hat is all the data that you have is owned by you. Most of the time, if you consider the data you have, it goes to other people. We use process mapping using something called IDEF0. Has anyone come across IDEF as a process mapping technique? Quite similar, really draws upon operations management. You have inputs. Here in the box you have a function, a verb, and then you have outputs. And the top is anything that constrains the process, and underneath the mechanisms that are required that support that verb, that transaction being undertaken. So if we have a generic shower based on the people we studied, we'll call our individual Megan, and she's having a shower. So obviously the input to the shower process is Megan. What do we need for it to be considered a shower? Well, we have a towel, we have some hot water, and we have some shower gel. We have a shower as a mechanism, a light and an extractor fan. These are sort of better thinking, and we need shampoo there as well. So coming out, clean Megan, use towel, wastewater. These are the outputs from this process. So a very simple process map from a very simple single transformation in the showering activity. So let's start with the shower room and look at the resources, because obviously there I just showed you one. These are all the things that you can find in the shower room. I've got an enormous spreadsheet of resources used in the shower room. All this stuff resides in that bathroom. So the resources used is just that limited set. When we looked at the resources, altogether, what we started to find was some of the resources were interaction resources. We talk about interaction data. These are data from a resource or mechanism which are not transformed, diminished, or depleted during a single use. So the shower, the door, the taps. These are all resources that you use in the shower that aren't transformed during that process. They're the mechanisms. So these are things you interact with, and we can measure those. Then we had resources which we recognise as being experience resources, and we collect experience data from them. So these are things you use that are transformed and diminished but not depleted. So if you consider a towel, you use it, it becomes wet, so it's transformed. It's not depleted, you haven't lost the towel, you've still got it. It's diminished maybe a little bit, but you can wash it and it's back again in your towel. You can do that a certain number of times. So it's experienced. Then we have depletion. So these are resources which you consume at a rate which is faster than they are replenished. So your shower gel, these toothpaste, that sort of thing in the home, you're consuming them at a rate faster than they're coming back into the house. So we say they are depleted, you've got less of them. Then we've got consumption. These are resources that you consume at the rate that they're replenished. So water, you turn the tap, you use it, turn it off. It's replenishing at the rate that you use it. So water, gas, electricity, Wi-Fi, TV signals. We call them consumption resources. So we've now got 4 different categories of resource that we want to capture data on. And we capture data in different ways. Obviously these are what we call nested functions. Where a resource sits depends on the chronology, the time length that you look at it over. Obviously over many thousands of operations a tap will wear away. So it will suddenly move to being maybe depleted. But in just that chronology we think about the normal shower operation, the tap is not. It is experience, it's interaction. Make sense? So, let's show you some data. This is a Z-wave humidity sensor placed in a shower room. Here we can see the change in humidity over 2 weeks. And you can pretty much see when somebody's had a shower and also how humid the room becomes and how quickly, how effective that extractor fan is removing the humidity from the room. Useful data if you're maybe looking at how mouldy a room's going or if that extractor fan's working. Because obviously humidity affects the environment that all those stored resources are in. It also gives you an account of the interaction with the shower. That data also tells us how often the door was opened, how often the shower taps were turned. Because we know there was a showering event for that hot water to come out, the shower tap must have been turned. So it actually gives us a lot of secondary information that we're not directly measuring. So some consumption data. I put a flood sensor in my shower that when water ran, it activated. When you turned the water off, it stopped. So this gave me a measure of the time that the shower was running for. By measuring the flow rate of the shower, we know the volume of water that was consumed. We just do a simple calculation. We also know the length of time in the shower. How long do you shower for? 5 minutes. Everybody says 5 minutes. I have 5 minute shower, I mean. The average is 21 minutes. Everybody lies about how long they're in the shower for. No, I didn't. No. If you time it, you'll be surprised. It's about 20 minutes. 15 to 20 minutes is actually how long people who have 5 minute showers shower for. We all lie. I was surprised. The volume of water is also quite high. The average duration of showering is about 19 minutes. The volume of water is 149 litres. It's a lot higher than we think. The average bath is actually only 80 litres. So baths tend to use less water than showers. Because we all lie about how long we're in the shower for.
How many liters per shower?
149. This data also gives account for the interaction with the shower. So how often you interact with the mechanism. So it's much longer than people think. So if you're doing survey data and you ask somebody, how long do you shower for? Oh, 5 minutes. It's massively wrong. 20 minutes. But that's our perception. Towel. I've probably got the only online towel in the world. I've got a motion sensor in my towel, so when you pick it up, move it, it triggers the motion sensor that's attached to the towel. So this shows how often the towel's being used. But this is Z-wave motion sensor attached to a towel. Now, it appeared that the towel was used more often than the owner expected. Because there's a lot more peaks. Because you all own your towel, yeah? You've got your towel in the bathroom. Actually, the sensor says you think you have your own towel in the bathroom, but everybody's using your towel to dry their hands. So it ain't your towel. If we look at depletion data, here's shampoo, you can see actually that's really quite linear. So over time, there's 2 bottles shown there, we can see fairly linear depletion of shower, of shampoo in the shower. So actually that's quite nice. If you're selling shampoo, you can see there's a nice replenishment model for you there. Shampoo consumption rate's relatively linear. Let's look at shower gel, also a depletion product. Consumption rate there is fairly erratic. Didn't follow the nice linear consumption rate that we saw before. This is where we need the extra data that we can get from the hat to find out what's going on. What we see is here we've got some information that the dog knocked over the bottle of shampoo. So we've got a massive consumption. So that's an odd event. We also see the shower after a run. So we get Fitbit data in the hat, so we know when somebody's been running. You'll also get that off if somebody's got a Google device. It's tracking you all the time. You can see how much, if you're still or you're moving. We can see run events. Running increases both shower time and shower gel consumption by 100%. So after somebody goes running, we see in the data an increase in shower time and a doubling in the amount of shower gel used. That's pretty interesting, especially if you're selling that as a product. So there's a very strong correlation between these 2 things. So where do we go with that? This is an explorative case. It shows Internet of Things implementation and operationalisation in the home space. We're tracking consumption, use and resources being used in combination. Because you can see there, the resources used in combination in the shower space, shampoo, shower gel. We found a lot of guys shave in the shower now. I don't know how many of you guys shave in the shower, but a lot of guys shave in the shower. You don't buy shower gel anymore. That was an interesting discussion. But I don't know, guys, you talk to your mates in the pub about how you shave, how you shower? No, not so much. So again, we can only see this through data. We learned some people shave in the shower. Different resource combination. Numerous implications from this. Consumers' perception of use actually differs to what they think they do. So if you do a survey, it's not going to be that great. Time in shower is longer. Use of towel is more shared than thought. Survey data would be misleading. We also find some activities are moderators of others. Running leads to longer shower length and doubles consumption of shower gel. And this is just in one simple space. We've got this useful categorization of data types. We can talk about interaction, experience, depletion and consumption. When we're talking about resources and how they're used, we can measure them and they fit into this framework of 4 different ways of using them. So the benefits of the Internet of Things, we can now start to design the touch points for product acquisition much better. We can talk about giving you the right product in sufficient quantities and at the right price, because we know what you're going to do with that. We might start making links between running and shower gel, between running and showers. Make those correlations. We're going to improve the timing of the reverse supply chain, because the data is improving the predictability of when stuff's coming back, when all that plastic wrapping's coming back, because we can see not only when you bought it, we can see when you used it. We can see how you consumed it. That's really useful data, because we know you're going running, that bottle's coming back more quickly than it would otherwise have done. We can train customers to use the product correctly if we see from our data what we would describe as misuse. Well, we can contact the customers. You're doing this, stop it. It's ruining your product. We might also change the way we design it. If everyone's doing that, we designed it wrong. We're going to put a coat hanger on the back of the chair, because everyone's hanging a coat on. It extends this idea, there's some theory called the customer as employee. We may select customers, look at your data and say, actually, these are great customers. We're going to select them, we're going to give them new offers. We're going to train customers. These guys really love using our product. they're using it in a strange way. We need to educate them. We need to give them some training on how to use that product. Or we might sack a customer. These guys are abusing the product, it's bad for our reputation, we're not going to sell to them anymore. Interesting ideas. It also improves our process efficiency by understanding patterns of use. Data may allow for automated customer-led returns. It may really help us understand flowing stuff back through reverse supply chains. So what are we looking at? We're looking at taking that black box away. Now we've got data, feeding data both up through the forward supply chain and back down the reverse supply chain. Much better data integrated picture. Going forwards, we're looking for firms to innovate, to create new applications, to help us link our lives more efficiently through data. So you're leaving the house for work, your house can send you a message to your car that, according to my calculation, you're going to run out of shampoo after you shower tonight. I can also see from your calendar that you're about to drive past a Tesco's, stop in because you need to buy some toilet roll and some shower gel. Wouldn't that be great? And that's your house. This isn't the supply doing it, that's your house telling you. So it's a nice secure little system. Your data, your rules, doing stuff for you. We could choose apps to remind us of the things we need, where to buy it, how to get it, send it to our cars. We can get firms to compete for this. I would quite happily let that data go to Tesco's, go to Sainsbury's, and then they can send me a text message. If you come to us, we'll do it for this price. Get them to compete for my business. Give me bespoke pricing. Trade that data to fill our knowledge gap. So that's where we are going forwards. I'm starting to look at the boundary crossing that's going on. The physical boundary, we're seeing a changing sense of space. We're starting to blur the lines between where's work, where's home, where am I? So many of you staring at mobile phones, are you in the room? Or are you somewhere else interacting with somebody? That moves us into this virtual space, because traditionally flows of knowledge across digital domains were very contained, but now they're not. Virtual space is very open, but decisions are being made on data, not on knowledge or expertise, but just on data. We're also moving into an epistemological space, blurring employee, vendor, and customer concepts. Can we actually measure and understand everything? Is that possible? Are people truly that empirical that we think we can measure and understand? Or is there still a quantitative and qualitative divide? So there's a lot of challenges in this space and a lot of blurring of boundaries going on. So this is all related back to the Hub of All Things project that we've done. Let's briefly look at some of the impact. We've got numerous academic publications. You saw on your way in the PhD comics film that tries to explain how the platform works. We've got a design of an entire ecosystem of how this all works. It's all open access, all the briefing papers that explain this. They're all there, hubofallthings.com. All the technology, you can download it. All the explanations are all there, it's all open access. We created a social enterprise, a HAT community foundation that is the guardian of all this knowledge. So it's all been spun out into a community foundation firm, and that's going to be looking after this knowledge. It's all there, it's all free to use. It's Creative Commons, I think it's called, licensed. 2 firms we've been working with have started to help people have their own hub of all things, their own HAT in their house. So that's your personal data guardian repository, call it what you will. That allows you to do these things. There's Enable ID in the UK and Noggin in Singapore. We've also launched a HAT data exchange to help further this research. So you can see this work has ongoing knock-on implications. So that's what I've been up to. Hopefully it's been interesting. I can sit around for questions if you have any.